I have a question for you married people. Have you ever disagreed with your spouse on something? Well, obviously, I asked the question as a joke. A better question might be, have you ever agreed on something? What do you do when you disagree? Who takes the lead? Who bears the responsibility of the decision? It can be a real power struggle sometimes. It all goes back to Adam and Eve. Boy, they get blamed for a lot, don't they? You know the story. Satan tempted Eve to eat from the one tree that God had told them was forbidden. She did it anyway, and then persuaded Adam to join her. In Genesis 3:16, God told Eve that as punishment for her disobedience, her pain in childbirth would greatly increase, and that you will desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. In other words, because of Eve's sin, women now want to rule their husbands, but instead must submit to his rule. And let's just be honest here, no one likes to hear that, right? God also punished Adam because not only had he failed to protect Eve, he joined her in her sin. That's tough to imagine sometimes because they had it all. They walked and talked with God in the most beautiful garden ever, a garden that was plentiful and had everything they could ever want. But it wasn't enough. Eve wanted more. She wanted the one thing she couldn't have, fruit from the forbidden tree. And that's the same problem we have in marriage. It's selfishness at its root. We want what we want when we want it. We're selfish, aren't we? I will not love her as I should because I'm selfish. She will not respect me as she should because she's selfish. Selfishness is a big problem, and it's destroying marriages right and left. We have to stop looking at marriage as a competition. We're constantly trying to arm wrestle with our spouse rather than hold their hand. Does that make any sense? Our energy is too often focused against our spouse instead of teaming up together to point our energy towards the real problem. Many years ago, my wife and I lived close to a couple from India, and they had an arranged marriage. They didn't meet until the day they got married. One time when we were together, we asked, how does that work? What's it like when you meet for the first time on your wedding day? What happens if you don't love them? And the wife looked at us and responded, well, you learn to love them. There is no plan B. This is your mate now. In order to have a successful marriage, you need to learn to choose to love your spouse, even when you may not feel like it. Because marriage is more than a promise. It's more than a pledge. It's not a contract to be broken when we're tired or we feel like we're not getting what we were promised. For believers, it's a covenant we make that includes God, and ending a marriage causes serious consequences, financially, socially, physically, even emotionally. It's hard work to be married. It's not about convenience or happiness. Bad times are going to happen. Good people lose jobs, lose their health, lose their wealth. Life happens. The key is to continually grow closer to God individually, which will draw you closer to one another. Before we move on, one additional question that frequently comes up in these discussions is with regard to remarriage. This is a tough topic that is usually very personal. You may be surprised to know that the Bible leaves some gray area when it talks about marriage and remarriage. There's a lot we simply don't know. So let's review what we do know. First, we know God's original design for marriage and His perfect will is one man plus one woman for life. 2, we know that there were specific instances in the Bible where God allowed divorce. Many of those verses don't mention what was allowed after that, so the rules of remarriage in those cases aren't clearly defined. Number 3, we know that remarriage is allowed for widows and widowers. There's no doubt about that. The marriage covenant is made to last until death. Number 4, we know that regardless of past decisions, if you're currently married, you should never divorce your current spouse in order to reunite with your previous spouse. Breaking one covenant in order to try and heal a past broken covenant isn't pleasing to God. Number 5, we know that we shouldn't judge others who have remarried. That's between them and God. Now beyond that, there are many specific circumstances with remarriage that you simply must pray and read God's Word for answers and seek wise counsel. If your heart is sincerely focused on God's will instead of your own, He will faithfully guide you.